Welcome back to another episode of SmoothBrainEDH, where we make the smoothest plays with the biggest brains. Buckle up, we have a vehicle-themed commander episode this week. Let's get to it. Up first is Ethan playing the Prydwen, Steel Flagship. This deck is trying to go wide and overwhelm opponents by playing artifacts to assemble a knight army. Next is Tanner on Hearthhull, the World Seed. This is a Jund's land deck, looking to cycle lands with Hearthhull's activated ability to play additional lands and take advantage of those sweet extra landfall triggers. Third is Shelby, piloting Infinite Guideline Station with the Jagantha partner. This is a 5-color value deck wanting to play tons of multicolored permanents to take advantage of those awesome enter the battlefield and attack triggers. Last up is Chandler playing Esika's Chariot. Chandler is sticking to his mono-green stompy roots here, looking to attack with his chariot and make copies of huge creature tokens that he's created. We're about to get to the game, but before that, give us a like and let us know down in the comments section which deck you're rooting for. Links to our socials and our deck lists are also in the description down below. Thank you to all our YouTube members. We really appreciate your support, and if you'd like to support us further, please consider becoming a member. Our channel is partnered with Dragon Shield, so if you want to pick up any new sleeves or other Magic-related product, check out the affiliate link down in the description below. Use the code SMOOTH5 for 5% off your entire order at checkout. Now, let's go pod racing.
Looks like Shelby wins the die roll. He'll start off with a Wooded Foothills. He'll fetch for an untapped Stomping Ground, then cast Deathrite Shaman and pass to Chandler. And Chandler just starts off with Avendo, Waking Haven, then there's tapped, and then he'll pass to Ethan, who just plays a Plains and passes, and then Tanner will play a Forest, cast Exploration, then play a Swamp as a second land drop, and use it to cast a Soul Ring. Oh lord, what a start. And then he'll pass the turn. Shelby's turn 2 sees him play an Island, and then he'll cast Kiora's Follower. Then, with the help of Deathrite Shaman eating the Wooded Foothills in his yard, Shelby will cast an Amulet of Vigor, and then the turn is passed to Chandler, who will just play a basic Forest, then he'll cast a Sylvan Anthem and pass the turn to Ethan, who just plays another Plains, and then he'll cast Felwar Stone and pass to Tanner, who starts off with a Mountain, then he'll cast Exploration Broodship. He'll then cast a Crucible of Worlds and pass the turn to Shelby. Shelby starts off with an Arid Mesa, and he uses it to go find a Savai Triumph, which untaps when it hits the field. And with his 3 lands and the assistance of Kiora's Follower, he'll cast Aragorn the Uniter. And then the turn is passed. Chandler starts off with a Yavi Maya, Cradle of Growth, then he'll tap for 3 and cast Flare of Cultivation. This finds him a Snow Forest to the battlefield tapped, and then a Forest to his hand, and he'll pass to Ethan while searching. And Ethan will start off with another Plains, then he'll cast Smuggler's Share and pass to Tanner. And Tanner will be the first to cast his commander. He'll cast Hearthhull. And poor Tanner hasn't found anything to station his spacecraft, so he'll just have to pass to Shelby. And he'll start off with a Knight of Autumn. Aragorn cast trigger will happen, and Aragorn gives himself +4/+4, and Shelby gets a 1/1. And then when Knight of Autumn enters, it'll destroy Tanner's Crucible of Worlds. Then we move to combat, where Shelby will whack his bonkus Ethan for 9. And then the turn is passed to Chandler. He'll start off with another basic Forest, then he'll drop Esika's Chariot. On ETB, he makes 2/2/2 wolves? I guess he doesn't have cat tokens, which is fine, because he, we, and the table know they're actually cats. He also gets to scry 1 twice, and it'll stay on top both times. Chandler will then go shields down by stationing his Avendo. And he only puts 4 counters on his planet when it should be 6 thanks to the Sylvan Anthem, but he does catch this by his next turn. And the turn is passed. Ethan starts off with Ameria the Sky Ruin, and then he'll cast Anointed Procession and pass to Tanner, who starts off with a basic Forest. And then he'll cast Scouring Swarm, a really cool new card, but let's be honest, Jund Lands did not need another Scoot Swarm. Anyways, Tanner has one more thing before he passes. He will station his commander. Then when he does try to pass, Shelby will stay on end step to activate Deathrite Shaman, exiling Chandler's Flare of Cultivation, and each of his opponents will lose 2 life. Then we'll move to his turn, where he's able to tap for 5 thanks to Kiora's Follower and Deathrite Shaman, and he'll cast Infinite Guideline Station. And on ETB, IGS will make 5 robots because it does count itself. Oh, but before that, Aragorn will trigger all 4 modes. He gives himself +4/+4, he makes another 1/1, Scries go on bottom, and Tanner takes the 3 damage. Alright, now he gets his 5 tapped robots. But thanks to Amulet of Vigor, they all untap. That's really cool. For 1 mana, they're untapped. After this, Shelby will tap a 9-power Aragorn, Knight of Autumn, and a 1/1 to station IGS for 12 charge counters. It's active now. Shelby will then pass the turn to Chandler, and the rest of the table is pretty scared. He can draw a lot of cards next turn. Anyways, now on Chandler's turn, he'll start off with a Shifting Woodland. He'll then cast an Orin Frostfang. Scry goes to the bottom, and then the Frostfang and a cat token will crew the Chariot. Chandler will then move to combat, and a 3/3 cat token goes at Ethan, and a 5/5 Esika's Chariot goes over at Tanner. Attack trigger makes another cat wolf, which lets Chandler scry another one to the bottom, and then everyone takes their damage. Then upon connecting, Chandler will draw 2. Ethan is excited to hear this, because now when Chandler passes the turn, Ethan draws a card. And Ethan really out here taking one for the team. He knows what he has to do. He'll tap for 5 and cast an Elspeth Stormslayer, which he knows is not making it to his next turn cycle, but he -3s her anyway to destroy Shelby's IGS. He'll then play a tapped Minas Tirith, and then the turn is passed to Tanner. The first thing he does is station Hearthhull again. And 2 charge counters is all it needs to activate its first ability, so he'll pay 1, sacrifice the forest that paid that 1, and draw 2 cards. His little bug will make a bug buddy, and then he'll play a Fabled Passage as land for turn. He'll then cast a Nature's Lore, which gets him a Zeator's Proving Ground, and then while he's already in his library, he goes ahead and fetches with Fabled Passage for a basic mountain. And since he sacrificed a second land, he gets another Bug Buddy. And then the turn is passed. On end-step Smuggler's Share will trigger, Ethan gets 4 treasures thanks to Elspeth and Anointed Procession, and 1 card. And now we'll move to Shelby's turn, where he'll finally find a 3rd land drop. It's a basic plains. He'll then put Jegantha to his hand. Then he'll move to combat and swing a robot at Tanner and 2 of them at Elspeth. This will kill Elspeth, and Tanner just chumps with one of his bugs. And then the turn is passed. Chandler will start off by crewing Esika's Chariot. Then 5 Commander is swung over at Ethan, who just takes it. When he attacked, he makes another cat token, and he'll scry 1 to the bottom, then draw a card upon connecting. Post-combat, he'll play a basic forest. Then he'll tap his 2 untapped cats to finish stationing his planet. So now he can pay 1 green and tap it, and float 6 green off of it. He'll use 1 of it to cast Finhorn Elves, and Scry stays on top. Then the last 5 will cast Conjurer's Closet. He'll then cast Emerald Medallion, and then for only 2 mana, he'll cast Overlord of the Hauntwoods. Shelby decides now is as good a time as any to Assassin's Trophy Ethan's Anointed Procession, so that's what he'll do. And Ethan gets a Plains, and then the Overlord resolves, and Chandler gets an Everywhere Land token. Then he'll pass the turn. On end step, he'll blink Esika's Chariot to make 2 more 2/2 cats, and then Impend will tick down. He remembers to do that here in a bit. Ethan also gets a treasure and a card. Then on his turn, he'll play a Plains, and then finally cast the Prydwen. He'll then cast a Scrap Trawler, and this triggers his commander, making a 2/2. The turn is then passed to Tanner, and he'll play a Forest, then cast Doubling Season. And then he'll station Hearthhull with Bug Buddy, and it gets 2 charge counters now, thanks to Doubling Season. He'll then activate Hearthhull to sacrifice a forest to draw 2. It also gives him a 2nd land drop, so he'll play a Swamp. And then he'll remember to make another bug. Then that token and the non-token bug will station the Exploration Broodship. He does not have a 3rd land drop though, so he'll just pass the turn. And on end step, Shelby exiles his Fabled Passage with Deathrite Shaman. Then we'll move to Shelby's turn, where he'll cast Jared Carthalion. All of Aragorn's triggers will happen, so he gets another 1/1. Chandler takes the 3 damage. Scry goes 1 top, 1 bottom, and Aragorn becomes a 9/9. After that, Jared resolves, and Shelby will uptick him to make a 3/3 Kavu. Then he'll move to combat, and Aragorn goes over at Tanner, and then a 2/2 robot goes over at Ethan. There are no blocks around the table. And after combat, Shelby will just pass the turn. Chandler starts his turn off by crewing Esika's Chariot. He'll then move to combat. Chariot and a cat go at Ethan, 3 cats go at Tanner, and 2 cats go at Shelby. After attacks are declared, Tanner will cast a Constant Mists, not paying the buyback cost. The snake will not be drawing Chandler any cards this turn, so combat is nullified, but Chandler still makes another 2/2 off the Esika's Chariot attack, and a Scry goes to the bottom. Alright, in second main, Chandler will float 10 green mana off of Endo, and start casting spells, starting with Thunderous Velocipede. Alright, creatures are about to start entering with counters. He'll then cast Wolverine Riders. Scry goes to the bottom, then he'll channel Beseiju to destroy Tanner's Doubling Season. This finds Tanner a tapped Overgrown Tomb, and then Chandler will cast a Nature's Lore, which gets him a basic forest, and then he'll pass the turn to Ethan. On instep, Impending ticks down, and then Esika's Chariot gets blinked again by Conjurer's Closet, and thanks to the Velocipede, it and the cat enter with 1/1 counters. Now on Ethan's turn, on his upkeep, Chandler makes a 1/1 elf, which is actually a 3/3 thanks to the Anthem and the counter it enters with, so Chandler gains 3 life off Wolverine Riders. Scry goes to the bottom, and then on Ethan's turn, he'll start off with a Vanquish the Horde. Chandler is the only one with a response in Heroic Intervention. Shelby responds to this by eating one of Tanner's lands. So, board wiped. Ethan follows this up with an Ogier Talk. Then he'll cast a Renewed Solidarity, and then play a Darksteel Citadel as land for turn, which triggers the Prydwen. Oh yeah, and the chosen creature type is obviously Knight. Ethan will then cast an Ornithopter of Paradise, which triggers the Prydwen again, making 3 more Knights, and then he'll move to his end step and make a butt-ton more off of Renewed Solidarity. And correct me if I'm wrong, he passes with 12. I think he should have like 24, right? He made 6, and then on end step he should make 6 more, which is tripled. So yeah, I think he should have 24. That was his mistake. Anyways, on Tanner's turn, he'll cast Avenger of Zendikar, and he'll make 7 0/1 plants. Oh yeah, Chandler also gets a 3/3 elf and gains 3. He'll remember the life in a second. And he gets a scry, and it goes to the bottom. The Avenger will then station the brood ship, giving it 5 more counters, so it is now max stationed. And this lets Tanner sacrifice a land to cast his Crucible of Worlds from his graveyard. And then he'll play a forest from his graveyard. Landfall puts a 1/1 counter on all the plants. And since the Exploration Broodship also lets him play an additional land, he'll play another forest, more landfall triggers. And then he'll use 2 of those plants to station Hearthhull the rest of the way, so it is now a creature. Then Tanner will pass the turn to Shelby. Ethan gets a treasure on end step, and Chandler gets an elf on upkeep. Chandler's Scry stays on top, and then Shelby will play Indatha Triumph, which untaps itself thanks to Amulet of Vigor. Shelby then says 1 board wipe wasn't enough, here's a Blasphemous Act. There are no responses, so everything is gone. After this, Shelby will cast Knights of New Alara, and then he'll uptick Jared Carthalion. That Kavu is all colors, so it is currently an 8/8. Then for some reason, Chandler takes the counter off of his Chariot, and then the turn is passed to Chandler. He'll start off with Eternal Witness and get back his Beseiju. Scry 1 stays on top. Then he'll crew his Thunderous Velocipede, which then crews his Esika's Chariot. And then Chandler will move to combat and swing for 5 at Ethan. Attack trigger will make another Everywhere land, and then Ethan will take the 5 commander. Chandler will then pass the turn, and on end step, Esika's Chariot will be blinked. 2 more cats are made, and they all enter with counters. Let's move to Ethan's turn now, where he'll just play a Plains. He'll then pass the turn, and he just needs 1 more Plains for Emeria to be online. Anyways, Tanner will start his turn off with a Verdant Catacombs, and he'll fetch for a Swamp. Then he'll do the exact same thing again, because, Exploration and Crucible of Worlds. The turn is then passed to Shelby. The first thing he does is move to combat. 2 goes over at Ethan, and 8 goes over at Tanner. They take the damage, and then post-combat, Shelby taps for 5 and says, alright, 2 board wipes wasn't enough. Here's a 3rd, Urza's Ruinous Blast. Ethan responds to it by killing Shelby's Jared Carthalion with a generous gift, and then all non-legendary, non-land permanents are exiled. And then Shelby will pass the turn to Chandler, who just plays a forest, casts Doubling Season, and then the turn is passed to Ethan, who has nothing to do, so he'll just pass to Tanner, who casts a Traveling Chocobo, and then a Conduit of Worlds. He'll use the Conduit to play that Verdant Catacombs again, which he uses to crack for a forest, and then he'll pass to Shelby, who just casts Giganta. Then he'll pass to Chandler, who just passes to Ethan, who plays a Plains and passes to Tanner. Hey, Zemaria's online. Anyways, Tanner will immediately activate Conduit of Worlds to let him cast Avenger of Zendikar from his graveyard. That makes him 11 plant tokens, then he'll play a Wastewood Verge from the top of his library, and thanks to Traveling Chocobo, these plants now get 2 counters. That's the only spell he can cast this turn, so he'll then pass. Shelby starts off by shocking in a Temple Garden, then he'll cast Tome of the Guild Pact. He'll then follow it up with IGS. It's a multicolored spell, so he'll draw a card, and then he'll make 2 tapped robots. The turn is then passed to Chandler, and he'll just cast a Tireless Provisioner and pass. On Ethan's upkeep, Scrap Trawler gets returned to the battlefield. He gets a 2/2, then he'll cast a Solemn Simulacrum, he'll get another 2/2 and a basic land, and then the turn is passed to Tanner, and Tanner will immediately activate Conduit of Worlds to cast Doubling Season from his graveyard. He'll then play the Verdant Catacombs from his graveyard and fetch with it for a basic forest, and between these 2 lands entering, Traveling Chocobo and Doubling Season, his plants get 8 more counters. He'll then move to combat, and he'll swing 3 10/11 plants at each player. Shelby cannot block, so he's going to go down to 4. Chandler will declare block with Tireless Provisioner, and Ethan will block with Solemn Simulacrum and 2 of his Knights. Chandler has a response before damage, though. He will crew Esika's Chariot with his Tireless Provisioner, and then cast Crash the Party. This will make him 2 4/4 Rhinos. And then damage goes through. Tanner's looking real scary right about now. Anyways, Ethan will draw a card off his Sad Sam dying. The turn is then passed to Shelby. He'll start off with Oko, Thief of Crowns, and he'll +1 Oko to make Conduit of Worlds a 3/3 Elk. He also draws a card. Then he'll cast Saheeli, Sun's Brilliance, and yes, Tanner does untap his Elk Conduit of Worlds. That'll become a problem later, that does get caught. Anyway, Shelby draws a card, then he'll cast Pippin, Guard of the Citadel, and he draws another card. He'll then play and fetch with a Polluted Delta. This will get him a tapped Watery Grave, and then the turn is passed to Chandler. He'll start off by tapping one of his 4/4s to crew Esika's Chariot, then he'll move to combat and swing at Tanner. Attack trigger will make more 4/4s, 2 of them to be exact, and Tanner declares his Elk Conduit as the blocker. Here's that problem I was talking about. Chandler says, wait, that should be tapped. You should block with one of your plants so I can cast this Esika's Chariot again. So that's what happens. Tanner blocks the Chariot, it dies, Chandler casts again and makes 4 2/2 cats. The turn is then passed to Ethan, where Emeria gets back Solemn Simulacrum, ETB triggers. Then Ethan will crew the Prydwen and then move to combat. He asks anyone if he can swing at them for free. Chandler says, sure, you can swing at me. So the Prydwen goes over at Tanner and Scrap Trawler goes over at Chandler. Tanner understandably does not want to get hit, so he will Chaos Warp the Prydwen away. This flips Monumental Hinge, so it goes to the battlefield. And Chandler will just take his 3 damage. Post-combat, Ethan activates Minas Tirith to draw a card. He did declare attack still. Then he'll activate the Monumental Hinge to reveal Mystic Forge and put it to his hand. Unfortunately, that doesn't do anybody any good right now. Post-combat, Ethan will cast Dion, which makes him another 2/2, and then the turn is passed to Tanner. Let's see if he can finish everybody off this turn. Oh yeah, he definitely can. He'll slam Mutinous Massacre. He'll choose odd, so all creatures with odd mana value are destroyed, and then he gains control of everything else. They untap and gain haste as well. Tanner will then recast the Hearthhull and use one of Chandler's 4/4s and Doubling Season to fully station it. Tanner then moves to combat. He'll swing his 3/3 Elk and 2 of his 10/11 plants over at Chandler, and then 2 10/11 plants at Ethan, and then everything else at Shelby. Shelby shows an Anguished Unmaking that he potentially could have cast to save somebody, but Tanner has Pippin Guard of the Citadel, and he can just give whatever that target's protection. So TLDR, yeah, everyone is dead. Nobody's alive. Well, except for Tanner. The winner. Congratulations. Alright. Welcome everybody to the end of the video. TBH, that was a very long game. It took me all week to edit it, so I'm gonna keep this quick. Me like game. Everyone get do cool thing. Tanner win and end. What you think? Grug like. Anyways, that's enough out of me for today. I hope you all have a smooth day.